So welcome to episode number 3 of the Live Long and Healthy podcast. This nutrition expert, nutritionist, Chrissy Davenport, has graced us with our presence. And just to preface it a little bit, the first 2 podcasts with the acupuncturist and massage therapist, we kept running into dead ends with the conversation where I said, we need a nutritionist on here. So here we are. So I'm glad you joined us.
I'm so happy to be here. And let me just correct you. I'm not an expert, right? I like to say that this is my passion. I'm very knowledgeable about nutrition.
Yes.
But there might be some things I don't have answers to. And if that's the case, I will research it and get back to you. Let's see.
Well, you're definitely passionate about it. You have a great energy. So this is going to be a lot of fun. And most importantly, it's going to be very informative for the people listening.
I hope so.
And like we discussed off camera, food as medicine is a popular term lately that I hear a lot about. And I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. You know, when I was growing up, whether it was like teenage years, college years, I would be in a pharmacy and I would see supplements, vitamins for sale, and everything said not evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. And as a naive kid, I thought that meant that it was BS or nonsense. But now, knowing what I know now, all these years later, I realize that they're only FDA is only evaluating drugs that are made by big pharma. Right. So anyway, what's your thoughts on that?
It's a good question. And I think a lot of people hear that term, food as medicine. I thoroughly believe it. And I would say it became like a sticking point for me back in my early 30s. The reality, though, is before I talk about my own story and how I got here, I would say we are human beings, natural beings that were meant to feed off the food that was provided on the earth. There's no money in evaluating the benefits of oranges and quinoa and leafy greens. What money is in that? They're not being manufactured. You pick them from your backyard or from a grocery store. So, but the reality is that most Americans are moving so fast paced that we don't have the time anymore to invest in cooking home cooked food, growing our own food. And because we're moving so fast and engaged in so many different activities, there's a convenience factor to processed food, fast food, grabbing from a restaurant, bars, processed bars. And to fill the gap between what we should be eating to maximize our health and wellness, and where we are and where we should be, to fill that gap, we do tend to go towards supplements and medications because they're easier. It's easier to pop a few pills than it is to go to the store, buy a farm stand, buy fresh ingredients, whip up some healthy, food at home. And so we're looking for convenience. But no doubt about it, the most effective medicine out there is naturally occurring foods that are growing in our own soil, right? So that is, I think, what it means to say, let food be thy medicine, is to eat naturally, eat balanced, eat from, I always say, I put everything in terms of like, this is God's world, God's creation. God created our bodies and he created the food for us to eat. And so the more we do that, the better off we are. But my hope too is to figure out where people are, what their lifestyle is, and what's realistic for them. What simple changes can they make to make their lives, go down that healthy path. Sometimes it is adding in a supplement or medication, but the hope is that we go in more natural route.
Well, and I think the proof is in the pudding, especially with me. I started eating 100% clean, pretty much whole food, plant-based, lean, just fruits, veggies, lean meat, chicken and fish, like I was telling you. Yeah. And I've never felt better. No aches and pains. I'm down to 158. I used to hover around 180. And I'm just much more active now than I was. And the one thing I said to you was, and I hope what everyone gets out of this podcast is, I would say out of 100 Americans, and this is debatable, probably only maybe 10% eat the way you and I eat, which is just nothing but fruits, veggies, lean meat, chicken, and fish.
Yeah. I think the demographic, changes that percentage, but overall in America, there is a very sad diet. It's a standard American diet. And I think about, 65 to 80% of the people are eating at the bottom of the nutrient density line, which is described as, foods that the lowest in nutritional value and the wide breadth of nutrients in those foods. We're eating from the bottom feeders, a lack of a better word, but it's the foods that really aren't fuel at all. it's calories
Yeah.
without nutrition. And the way you're eating is you're using your food as fuel. Yeah. Can I just mention one thing? I love that you said your body, the aches and pains are gone. Your excess weight is gone. For somebody else, food as medicine, in my case, I will say the way that my brain operates day to day significantly improved when my diet improved. So I remember growing up and even going to college. I was an athlete in college. I studied at a pretty aggressive school academically. And I just remember being not focused. I struggled with anxiety a lot, had a lot of attention issues. And when I started eating better, oh my gosh, like my attention span was stabilized. My moods were stabilized. My highs and lows with my energy were stabilized. So for you, it was almost like musculoskeletal and weight. For me, it was more like neurological improvements once I started eating better.
Energy improvement too.
Energy, for sure. So it spans every system in the body can be improved or hindered based on what we put on the end of our fork.
Yeah.
Yeah. And everybody's story is different. My particular story is what brought me here in this profession because I saw the impact that changing my diet made on my overall being, changing, the way I exercise, the way my stress relief, just the balancing of my life, all of that. That's the whole idea of holistic health. You're looking at all different pieces of your life to see how you can better put it in balance. And
functional medicine, so to speak, right?
There's the holistic medicine or I'm not a doctor, right? So holistic nutrition is the idea that our overall well-being is based on a number of factors in our day-to-day. For me, I'm a holistic nutrition coach. So nutrition, the food we put in our body, is very heavily weighted, in my opinion, and I help people in that aspect of their life. But all the other parts of that big circle of life, exercise, their home environment, their finances, their stress, their joy, their spirituality, their creativity, their friendships, all of that takes part in their overall well-being. So I address each of those facets with my clients. Functional medicine, they have a lot more degrees and years of study than I do, but they are looking at the root cause of an issue, a diagnosis. They're taking the whole body.
And for those that don't know, I think functional medicine, you have a lot of MDs like Michael Greger, Hyman, I forget the first name, Mark Hyman. I think they're MDs, functional medicine, where they're doing a lot more blood tests and stuff, and they're basically using food as medicine and exercise and wellness and well care and all that. But backing up to what I said before about how I think maybe only 10% of Americans eat the way we eat, just fruits, veggies, lean meat, chicken, fish. A big part of the reason they don't is because propaganda, I think, by advertising companies. And I always hear this on my, the Joe Rogan podcast, my idol in podcasts. They always talk about how, I think I read this in Greger's book too, like Nestle company and Nabisco, all these companies, they're not making money by doing a commercial on apples or oranges. You're not making money off that stuff. So they're trying to get people to buy processed foods. And then we touched on, processed sugars, I think is commonplace that people know that's bad now, but I started hearing about processed starches. So it's really processed starch and processed sugar. I know I was asking you about the bad processed starches. We were discussing that. If you want to touch on that.
Yeah, sure. And the question being, I just want to make sure I'm answering the question. What is wrong with processed sugars and processed starches? Is that the question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And let me say too, I'm a big believer in balance here. I am not one that says it's 100% or you're doing it wrong. I have 3 children, ages 5, 8, and 11. I like to have a good time. I like to eat fun foods. So really my hope is that 85 to 90% of the time we're eating food that's fueling our bodies. 10 to 15% of the time, enjoy it. I mean, dude, I love Swedish fish.
Ice cream twice a week.
I love ice cream. I love pizza. I love going out and having like nachos and guac, right?
Yeah.
So you can't eliminate all that. Life is short.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. But for the most part, when you are hungry, your body is craving real food.
Yeah.
And so the first thing I like to say to my clients or my family is, look, there's 3 categories of food because I think all of these different starches, carbs, sugar, it's all very confusing. I'm going to try to make it really simple for you because once you understand the big picture, than the little details.
Now, you get very elaborate. So
I know. I got to stay close to the mic, but I use my hands and my body. I'm trying to have good mic etiquette.
I'll try to bring it back if I feel like it's not, if it's over,
mean if I'm going off tangents?
If it's over everyone's head, I'll try to
Bring me
hone
back.
you in. Okay.
You got carbs.
Yes.
You got fats. You got protein.
Yes.
There's 3 macronutrients. Everything you eat and drink and put in your mouth has to fall into one of those.
Mm-hmm.
Carbs, what is a carb? Anything from the ground. Your fruit, your vegetables, your beans, your grains, all of those are carbs, right? Carbs break down into sugars.
Mm-hmm.
So everything natural from the earth that's from the ground is a carb and breaks down into sugars. But everything that I just listed is a natural one.
But those are good.
They're good carbs. They don't just have sugar. They have lots of fiber, lots of nutrients, lots of phytochemicals. And the benefit of all that other stuff that I just said, it's like glue that binds the sugar molecules together. So when we eat them, we don't have this explosion of sugar in our body when our body breaks down these sugars, because all the fiber and the nutrients, phytochemicals, sort of holds those sugar molecules together, giving us this even rise and fall of our blood sugar, giving us energy that's even. Compare that to the other processed carbs and sugars like pretzels and white bread and yogurts laced with sugar and soda and things like that, candy, muffins. Those are processed carbs, processed sugars. When they break down also into sugars, but there's no fiber. There's no phytonutrients. There's no phytochemicals. So when you eat these, there you get the explosion of sugar. Your blood sugar elevates. It lets off like serotonin, dopamine in your brain, and you get this excitable energy, and then you crash very quickly. So you have this like blood sugar roller coaster that leaves you hungrier, leads to insulin resistance over time. Sorry, go ahead. Redirect.
Well, I was going to say, while we're on that topic, this is near and dear to my heart, diabetes and like type 2 diabetes.
Yeah.
Because they talk about younger people getting it faster.
Yeah.
And from the stuff I've been coming across lately, and my grandfather had bad diabetes and had to get his leg amputated, so I'm passionate about that. But it seems that from some videos I've seen that kids especially, they're eating just sugars and candy and crap and cake, that eventually, I don't know if you know exactly what happens to the body.
Yeah,
eventually, so when you eat all that sugar, it spikes your blood sugar. And then at some point, I think your insulin receptors almost burn out. And that's when people get type 2 diabetes and you have to basically take insulin injection.
Yeah. Okay. So great question. Love this. I don't know if this is going to interest the crowd, but
no, it's important.
All right. I'll tell you why. Some kids, it's funny. My daughter the other day was like, shoot, I think I have diabetes. I'm like, why? She's like, I'm going to the bathroom very often. I ate a lot of sugar today. Okay. You don't get diabetes overnight, so don't worry about it. But I will answer that. And to loop things around, that's the first category, because I'm like big on closing conversations, because I'm ADHD. I got to bring it back.
Yeah.
That's the carb, everything from the ground. What else is the other categories? Anything that moves around. Your fish, your chicken, your cow, your
proteins.
That's protein.
Yeah.
And then you got some plant ones in there. And then your fats are like your nuts, your seeds, your avocado, your butter. We'll get to that if you have a question.
Yeah.
But anyway, diabetes occurs. There's type 1, type 2. The one you're talking about, yes, when you have this constant rise of blood sugar without all the good fiber and nutrients, very different types of blood sugar rising and falling. The bad one, the one where it's like calories without nutrition, the processed sugars, the processed white flour, over time, you're constantly challenge your pancreas, which is an organ that releases insulin, which is a hormone in the body. It's part of the big endocrine system. Sugar goes up. Your pancreas responds by releasing insulin and lowering your body's blood sugar. Our body's a big thermostat. It wants to always be in check and always be balanced. So the pancreas has a very important job of constantly spitting out insulin. I always say it's like Pac-Man. You get sugar, Pac-Man comes, eats it up. That works over time. But eventually, Pac-Man gets tired and they're being utilized over and over and over. And then they just give up. Or you've used all the insulin in your pancreas, basically. It's tired. It's fatigued. You're now resistant. You're insulin resistant. If that happens over time, over and over and over and over, your pancreas peters out. And the first level would be like a drug like metformin or Actos or one of those medications. But worst case scenario, yes, you do have to take insulin every time you eat.
It's scary stuff,
it's scary.
because I mean, a lot of kids, the amount of Even my kids, the amount of junk food.
Pair it. I
Working
always
on
say
it.
pair
Yeah.
it, right? Like when we go through their day, they want something junky. I'm like, wait a second. Let's talk about what you've eaten today. If you've only had cereal, it's processed. If you've only had cereal plus like a bagel for lunch, it's processed. Go grab something else. So I always say like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You know, five, or I should do it backwards. I don't know. I always say like, all right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's go that way. You get one life.
Yeah.
2, you have to eat 2 veggies a day. 3 fruits, 4 glasses of water. And the 5 is just make protein the size of your palm. And if you haven't done that all day long, let's go through and eat it before you get more junk food.
So when I'm giving my kids dinner and Kennedy goes, "You can't make me eat broccoli," what do I say?
I say, I'm your parent. I care about you and I care about your body. I make you wear a seatbelt because I care about your safety in the car. I make you eat your broccoli because I want you to live long and feel good and be healthy. It's not negotiable. You don't like the broccoli? Have a carrot or cucumber. Veggies aren't negotiable. You might think I'm mean, but it's a learned response. It's only in our country where our kids are like, I don't like fruits and veggies. I'm like, heck, you like fruits and veggies. You just are telling me what you want to eat. If we left it up to our kids, my kids would literally eat cheese, pasta, and ice cream every day. I'm their parent. I have to take care of their bodies. Once you're 18 and you're out, hopefully I've established some routine, but it's my job to make sure. And this is the thing, the palate is very adaptable. So you can learn.
I tell them that.
Their
their taste buds will change.
But the other thing you do is you just say, look, when you are done with those few carrots or those few cucumbers, then you can have our mac and cheese. It's when, it's not if.
Then
you make it a negotiation if it's an if.
Then we'll have ice cream for dessert.
Totally. Totally.
All right, good. So are we moving on to proteins?
Sure.
And
So
then fats?
so we did the diabetes thing. We did like, why are they unhealthy? Yeah. Processed starches are unhealthy, not just because the scientific, like your blood sugar rises and falls. I don't have clients that come to me and say, my pancreas feels really tired. I think my insulin is, jacked up. No, they come to me and they're like, every day at 3, I need to take a nap. I shouldn't be needing a nap. Like, why am I so tired all the time? Or they say, I swear something's wrong with my metabolism. Like I'm always hungry and I don't feel like I'm satisfied. Or they're like, I don't know what's happening. I'm in my mid-40s, mid-50s, and I'm just gaining weight and I think it's just going to happen. No, those are how it appears when they're not eating healthy food and they're eating processed food, processed starches and processed sugars. It's when they're telling me I get headaches or my stomach hurts all the time, or I have no energy, right? So that's what I hear. And that's then when I start to peel away their day-to-day, what they're eating, and I identify, all right, probably 2 minutes refined stuff. Let's add in. And I love that concept of crowding out. I don't tell everybody, you can't have pasta, you can't have bread, you can't have sugar. No. But if you eat what's required daily, there's a lot less room for all the junk. So it's like crowding out. Yeah.
Well, one thing we could touch on before we move on to protein and fats.
Sure.
I mean, the reason I eat so good is that I make 2 smoothies a day. And then my third meal I get from you because you do food prep. So we have to discuss that a little. I actually never did food prep before because it always seemed like it was coming from corporations, like websites and stuff that were going to deliver. And I'm just not into that. Just dealing with bad customer service and stuff. So then I met you, found out you do the food prep and everything, 5 organic. So a lot of clients do 10 meals, some do 5. I do the 5 a week because I make a daytime smoothie and then a nighttime smoothie is my third meal. And I mean, it's great because those 5 meals I pick up from you, it's nothing but fruits, veggies, lean meat, chicken, fish. I mean, they're perfect
healthy
meals.
Fats, yeah.
Yeah, healthy fats. And they're it's portion controlled.
Yeah.
Like I'll dump it on my plate. It's so good and fresh. I don't even heat stuff up in the microwave typically. I just eat it like room temperature. It's great out of the fridge. So you have to set yourself up to eat right.
Yeah. That's the hardest part. I think people want to do well. I mean,
it's hard.
I have a lot of friends who they're go-getters, but they're amazing moms and they're home taking care of their home and their kids, or they're like doing amazing stuff in their work world and they're busy or whatever it might be. Everybody's busy. So their intention is good. They want to eat well, but look, they're leaving the house at 7. They're getting home at 5. They're driving their kids from one sports practice to the next, to piano, to doing homework, and they're cleaning up their home and they're spent. Where's the time to like shop and prep and cook? So I'm a big believer that if you feel like this is one area of your life that needs improvement, we've got to figure out a way to make it work. And it doesn't have to go from 0 eating out every night to cooking your homemade meal every day.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the middle that you feel comfortable with. Yeah, it is part of my business where I will provide meals for people who are local. I love it. It's a gift that I get to give and a gift that people feel like they're receiving. But my passion is I love to create. I love combining foods that I think are satisfying and seasonal and delicious. You know, I'm 100% Italian. I love food, and I grew up cooking with my mom and always loved that. Never thought it would be a career of mine, but it has been. It's amazing.
You know, so before I want to get into fats, good fats versus saturated fats.
There I go again, just talking. Yes.
Well, no, because that's huge, and not a lot of people. Most people probably don't know what good fats are. You know, I would say in the last year or two, I'm eating a ton of good fats. But before that, I didn't really ask you in the beginning.
Yeah.
Do you want to just summarize how you got into this field?
Oh, sure.
The nutrition field?
Yeah, I love it. I love that it's just like, it's all over the place. We're just like asking questions that come to our mind. And yeah, hopefully you're following along. But I will say, I'm going to try to keep this short. It's very hard for me. Always loved cooking. Always loved it. And always wanted to go into like a nutrition field, but didn't really think it was possible. Also, always loved science as a subject. I went to college, graduated from Brown with a degree in psychology. So I always loved the mind. And then after that, I ended up really just going into the workforce. I spent a good amount of time working for Eli Lilly, diabetes educator, and a sales rep for a couple years. And then I worked for Johnson & Johnson, Ethicon Endosurgery as a medical device sales rep, a sales trainer, a sales manager in the Northeast. I loved it. I will say the pieces that I loved about those jobs were I love understanding how the body works. I loved working with physicians and that whole like sector. I also loved working with people. So whether it was being a sales rep or a training manager, I got to really understand people and what they mattered, what mattered to them. However, after and I got my MBA during that time. Didn't love the business classes as much as I did like the science and psychology class. But anyway, long story short, I had my first daughter. And it was really challenging for me to balance being a career woman, which was, I think, an idol of mine. I was a little bit of a workaholic and put a lot of emphasis on my position, what I was making, money, monetarily, all that. And it was a big wake-up call to me because I put too much emphasis on that, had my child, I couldn't balance it. I actually got quite anxious and fell into depression and left that career. And it's a big part of my story. I was afraid to share it at first, when this all went down, but oh my gosh, I'm so grateful for it because I stepped away from a 13-year career and walked away from it without having anything in mind. And my amazingly supportive husband just allowed me to rebuild myself. And that came from going back and putting a lot of emphasis on my faith, yoga, cooking again. And I discovered the Institute for Integrative Nutrition.
Shout out to Craig.
Woo! He's so amazing. I do. I love him so much. He's so good and so supportive. And went to the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. And it's a holistic nutrition school out of New York City. And I did it for a year and I dove into it. And it was like everything I learned just absorbed like a sponge and then some. Yeah. And 6 months in, I started my own business and did not know where it was going to take off. I was in Hoboken at the time and started coaching moms to be, pregnant moms and new moms on nutrition during breastfeeding, how to feed their growing child, things like that. Moved to North Caldwell, totally different demographic. It's people with kids. And now I've got moms coming to me saying, how do I take care of myself and my growing kids? A lot of it is just coaching, but I will say after the pandemic, like 75% of what I do is cooking for people or with them and teaching them how to do that because it's executing what I'm teaching them.
Well, that's my story. And that's the food prep is huge because that's like concrete results for people, Yeah.
Like last week I had a client and we talked about how she needed to make changes to address her digestive issues, her energy issues, vertigo. And after a session, she's like, this is great. Could you just cook for me?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, she doesn't have the food available. Making that change is hard.
No, and I love the price point because I used to go get prepared food from a couple different places around town and then, put stuff together in a plate, heat it up. And, it was probably coming out to around the same price. But,
maybe I'll increase my prices.
Well, don't do that, but.
I want to be fair. I want to be fair, and I love what I do, and I'm so grateful.
Well, that's how my business is too with our therapeutic massage. We're killing it. We're super busy because I keep overhead down, and it's a price that people could come in and get it every week or every other week.
Yeah.
It's a lot less than some competitors who are almost double the price, but That's why we're so busy.
Yeah, you want
know?
to keep a consistent business model.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, because people need it every week, every other week.
That's right.
But all
Okay.
right, so let's segue to the fat conversation
Okay.
because so you could correct me. So if you say what's good fats, I would say I know avocados, mixed unsalted nuts, legumes, I guess. What am I?
Legumes are actually a protein, right? They're from the ground. They don't really have any fat in them.
What about the nuts?
Fat. Yep, they do. They're also from the ground. So it's a little confusing because things dip into two categories.
I was going to say.
Meaning nuts can be both protein and fat.
Oh, okay.
Legumes. Oh, a peanut is a legume. So it is a fat and a protein.
Well, the other thing I put in my smoothie, I put a tablespoon of ground flax in my daytime one and a tablespoon of ground chia in my nighttime smoothie.
You are
Those are great,
on
like omega. And then when you say
omegas.
good fats, that's omega 3s and omega 6s?
Yeah, well, omega 3, 6, 9, 12, they're all good, but the real good ones are omega 3s, which are considered anti-inflammatory. This is it in a nutshell, people. All fat does not make you fat. I will say it again. All fat doesn't make you fat. And remember, remember in those years where we were moving away from fat because of heart disease, we were eating snack balls, like fat-free snack balls. Oh my gosh, I would eat a sleeve and I'd be like, oh, this is great. I would eat frozen yogurt by like the gallon and be like, well, I'm not going to get fat. It was all sugar. Or the Olestra in like those potato chips that had no fat. Fine, there's no fat, but my friends were on the toilet all day because the Olestra like totally messed with their gut.
Yeah.
There's always a trade-off when you're manipulating ingredients. But what I will say is this: not all fat is bad. There's good fat, there's bad fat. Bad fat are your hydrogenated oils. So I always think of just go to a boardwalk. Funnel cake, bad fat. It's oils. It's things that are deep fried, right? French fries, deep fried. The other types of trans fats. Oh, okay. You go to a food store, a ShopRite. And I love ShopRite, by the way. Shout out to Dara Splendorio. Okay.
She's awesome.
And Frank Jr. Bad fats are found in breadcrumbs and peanut butter. They have hydrogenated oil. Why? To keep it shelf stable. Think about Entenmann's. Oh my gosh. Think about Twinkies. They last for like 10 years. How? They have this hydrogenated oil in there that keeps things shelf stable. The longer the shelf life of these products, the shorter is yours. So that's how you think about it, right? So when you buy bread from Whole Foods, you're like, dang, it's moldy after 6 days. There's nothing hydrogenated, nothing processed. It's a short shelf life, but that's good for yours. So bad fats are like the deep fried hydrogenated oils. Good fats, sorry.
Is hydrogenated trans fats?
Yeah, same thing. So this is really tricky. You might buy products and be like, there's a 0 by trans fats. Like if the nutrition panel says trans fat 0, you think it's healthy. The food manufacturers are pretty tricky people. Of
course.
They put things at just below 0.5, like milligrams or whatever it might be. So they don't have to indicate it as a full 1. The only way you would know is by reading ingredients and reading the food labels, like literally ingredients. If you see the word hydrogenated oil, partially hydrogenated oil, there you go. It's a trans fat. And what does this stuff do? It builds plaque in your arteries. So it could lead to heart disease. If you're not eating a lot of fried foods, you're okay, really. And like processed muffins and cookies and
donuts,
the apple pies and donuts, that's where all the hydrogenated bad fats come in. Then there's like the middle ground. I would say middle ground.
Is that saturated fats?
Those are all categories of trans fats. Then you got your saturated. So I always say trans, all bad. That's fun food, but all bad. So eat that sparingly. Your saturated fats are really, I think, majority of it are animal fats. Your ice cream, your eggs, your butter, your dairy, your red meat, your steak. It comes from cows.
Yeah.
Farm to table, like where'd it come from? All that stuff comes from a cow.
Yeah.
And it has saturated fat in it. Is it all bad? No, you get plenty of iron, plenty of protein, plenty of calcium, right? So it's not all bad, but you want to eat it sparingly. You don't want red meat every day. Yeah. So again, it's not always what it is, it's the quantity of what you're eating, right? Then you get your all good. That's good, but moderation. Yeah. And then you get your all good fat, which are called polys. So that's saturated fats, polyunsaturated fats.
Yeah.
And there's 2 different categories of poly. We don't have to go there. Just know that polys are really good for you. And polys are things it's a type of fat and it just comes down to like the chemical structure of these fats. But salmon, sea bass, all your nuts, your almonds, your walnuts, your avocados, your coconut.
Cashews.
Yeah. And these are actually good for your cholesterol. The bad cholesterol, when your cholesterol's high, I'm like, watch a trans, maybe watch some of the saturated. Believe it or not, if you have high triglycerides, it's from the sugar you're eating. Maybe a little too technical on this call, but the polys are what you want to be eating. Specifically, salmon, walnuts, flax, chia are anti-inflammatory.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't need to memorize all this, but like, you'll start to hear it over and over and it sinks in.
What's the two categories of polyunsaturated fats? Is that omega-3s and omega-6?
So there's poly unsaturated and then just plain unsaturated.
Oh, like, is that mono unsaturated?
Yeah, good.
Okay.
Mono and poly.
All right.
The polys are the best. Those are the omega-3s, the anti-inflammatory, which is like wild caught salmon and your walnuts and chia. So I do, like, everyone's like, I love almonds. I'm like, change it up.
Yeah.
Have some roasted walnuts once in a while and pumpkin seeds and hemp seeds.
So I'm always looking to tweak my diet and just add things. So I bought a container from Whole Foods, a container of little round pieces of dark chocolate, but I got the darkest one there is. So I was like, I got all excited. I'm like Kennedy and James, I have chocolate. And I think I gave one to Kennedy and
no, it's bitter and there's no sugar.
At the end of it, it was like she didn't finish it. But I throw one or two in my smoothie.
Okay, so this is
just
the
to
trick.
add to it.
Yeah, cacao is a superfood. It's totally anti. Well, I know it's so silly. There's cocoa and there's cacao.
Oh, I never heard.
It's not like tomatoes. Cacao and cocoa are really two different things. They're from the same seed. They're from the same nut, from the tree. It's a tree, like the cocoa tree, right? Found in the Amazon.
Cocoa leaves.
Cocoa seeds, cocoa nuts. You take the nut, and if it's just like shaved down, it's cacao. Totally high in antioxidants, totally high in zinc and iron, really good for you, powerful anti-inflammatory. That's what I put in like my muffins when I make muffins or smoothies. Cocoa is when Hershey takes that and heats it. So like all the nutrients are like kind of cooked off.
Yeah.
That's cocoa powder. So it's a different spelling. One is really high in powerful benefits and the other is just tasty. But either one is very bitter. You need to add sugar to it. So I just use cacao and I add some pure maple syrup, which is a natural sweetener. And then it's a delicious mix and you can make, muffins and hot chocolate with it.
Here's a question for you. I wonder if you have a thought on this. And this always confused me because you know how like processed foods technically last longer?
Yeah.
So I started buying organic milk now. And what's crazy, the organic milk, say you buy it in like, in January 26th? Say you buy it January 26th. It's good until like March. So it's a longer shelf life, but the regular milk that's not organic only lasts for like a week.
Don't ask me why.
Yeah, that's confusing to me.
I don't know why. I mean, I would say something with the pasteurization process, but I don't know. I have to look into why that is more shelf stable.
Strange.
That doesn't,
I won't buy regular anymore.
No. There's BHT and hormones and antibiotics, and it's a simple change. If you're looking to go clean, just go organic milk, please, and eggs.
And again, shout out to Dara Bowl and Basket, the ShopRite brand. That's what I go for because it's about a couple dollars less than those other organic brands.
Yeah. Listen, everybody, we don't have to go here, but I will just say people are like, organic is too expensive. Sure. If you're buying conventional everything and you decide to throw everything away and start all over and buy organic, it's very pricey. The way I did it when I went back to schools, when I really got on board like 11 years ago, I went with the most contaminated things. So it was like milk and eggs right away. And then I went with my fruits and veggies, like the dirtiest dozen of the fruits and veggies. And I started there. And you start to realize, look, a lot of these products that are high movers, the price is going down because the demand's going up. So you just shop around too.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's tangent.
No, it's
not
good.
part of your...
Well, Bowl and Basket, it's a good price point. Let's see. So we didn't really cover... Did we get into proteins? You started with carbs.
Proteins, the things that move around. What do you want to know? I wonder, it'd be fun if people called in and said, I had a question.
Yeah.
But why go vegan, vegetarian versus be a hardcore keto, paleo person?
Well,
or maybe not important.
The one thing I noticed after reading the Michael Greger book, How Not to Die, I was trying to stay, because he really promotes just whole food, plant-based.
Yeah.
Not really a lot of lean meat, chicken and fish.
No.
And if I don't have a little bit of protein, and the key is really what a lot of people don't realize is when you make your dinner, I have a half a chicken cutlet, really.
Yeah.
The chicken or the half piece of steak or some fish, that's really like a side dish. And then you almost want like 2-3 sides of veggies.
Yes.
But without that little bit of animal protein, I could be irritable where I just don't feel satiated.
Totally.
So I think you need it.
Okay.
You know,
So why do we need protein? Let's just say that. Why do we need protein? We need it because our muscles need amino acids that are, okay, remember I said carbs break down into sugar? Protein breaks down to amino acids. And it's the building blocks of like our muscles. And as fast as carbohydrates break down into your system, you just eat lettuce or you just eat a donut, you're hungry 5 minutes later. Protein digests a lot more slowly, so it is more satisfying. So we need protein to stay satiated. You need protein to build muscle. If you work out really hard and you're just doing a juice, you're going to be starving. You're not going to be able to build up the muscle you just exercised.
Yeah.
So we need protein for a lot of reasons. But there's different ways to get it. So the question is animal versus, plant-based. And I am very much a proponent of being, bioindividuality is very important in my line of work. I think if you're somebody that comes on a podcast and say the keto diet worked for me, everybody should do it. You lose credibility right there. Everybody has a different biochemical makeup, a different blood type, a different age, a different diagnosis they're dealing with. So I'm always like, well, what is your thing? If you just want to lose weight and you don't care about everything else, fine. It might be keto. It might be, but look, year after year after year, when it comes to longevity, better for your health, living longer, living healthier, it's a Mediterranean diet. There's lots of fish and beans and legumes and pasta and fresh fruits and veggies. The whole idea is it's balancing. It's giving yourself natural carbs, beans. It's an anti-inflammatory diet. They're not saying go out and eat more dairy, go out and eat more red meat and more poultry. Yeah. No. So I'm just saying that is the diet that seems to be the healthiest.
Well, so nothing but fruits, veggies, lean meat, chicken, fish. So that's
and nuts and seeds. That's whole food. Nuts and seeds. That's whole food.
That's Mediterranean. But you mentioned pasta though, mixed in.
Because look, the pasta in Italy and Europe is very different than it is here. It's so highly processed here. The wheat is very different here. And by the way, organic pasta, it has a lower. It's healthier for you than eating like sliced bread, crackers, and pretzels all day. Mm-hmm. It's a better carbohydrate.
Organic process.
So you'll notice in my meal prep, once in a while, I throw in some organic pasta with like vegetables and white wine and garlic. I do that a lot. If I'm going to eat pasta, I tend not to pair it with meat. The pairing of that is not so great for you. When I eat pasta, I eat it with veggies. When I eat meat, I eat it with veggies.
What about gluten-free pasta compared to organic pasta? Is that like
Wait, did we close the other question? Did we talk about the protein? Which one's better? Why protein?
Oh,
I always want to like close loop.
I thought it was a combination.
Well, it depends on the person, number one, right? It depends on the person, but I will say portion control is important. In America, we're eating way more than we need. If you buy a pound of turkey meat and you look on the back, it's 16 ounces. There's 4 servings, which means 4 ounces is 1 serving.
Yeah.
If you're eating 1 meal a day, a lot of people are doing these crazy diets. They're like, I'm fasting until 2 and then I eat whatever I want. I can't imagine that's healthy. Like I'm more like slow, sustainable portion control. If you're eating throughout the day, you're allowing yourself some breakfast, a little snack, lunch. 4 ounces should be sufficient. Mm-hmm. If you're fasting for 17 hours, it's never going to hold you. All right, you're yawning. I'm boring you.
No.
Yeah, you are. I'm going to move on from the protein
I yawn
talk.
sometimes.
Anyway, I will say the more important thing is you get the right amount of protein a day versus this is the kind you have to eat. Animal versus.
Gotcha. Well,
that's my opinion is that most people aren't getting enough.
Yeah. Well, I have 3 meals a day because I do intermittent fasting. I just basically skip breakfast. So I have 1 o'clock is the first meal, around 7 is dinner, and then around 10:30 is my nighttime smoothie, third meal.
That's interesting.
But I was always a late eater. That's why I start a little later versus like 12, 5, and 8.
Sure.
So it's about 8 hours of eating, but every meal is based, there's protein in every meal. So
that's great. And look, that's why I say everybody's different. I wake up starving. I eat my first meal at like 7:38. My last one's at like 6 o'clock. But to tell somebody who's always been a late eater to start eating breakfast, it's not going to sit well with them. Mm-hmm. You figure out what works for different people.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my spiel.
Let's see. So,
what were you going to ask about? You said protein's done. The difference between gluten-free pasta and regular pasta?
Yeah. I mean, is that a thing? Is it a big?
Yeah, it's a thing. I will say, and again, I wish I just always had a simple answer, but I always like to back up and say, well, why are we talking about this? If you have celiac, disease or you have a severe digestive sensitivity, it doesn't have to be digestive. If you have a sensitivity to gluten, which is a disruptive protein found in wheat, barley, and rye, yes, when you eat pasta, you go gluten-free. But if you don't have a gluten sensitivity at all and you want to have pasta every so often, eat the organic pasta. Like I know that gluten and wheat in a high amount isn't good for anybody. I know that. I don't eat it all the time. But as an Italian who loves pasta, I'm not going to mess with gluten-free pasta on Sundays when I make pasta for my family because I'm not eating sandwiches every day. I'm not snacking on crackers and pretzels every day. So I have 95% of my diet is naturally gluten-free anyway, that when I want to eat the pasta, I do. It's for somebody that has an issue with gluten. But you know what? Okay, let me say this too. You can't feel deterioration. You can't feel prevention. Mm-hmm. A lot of times we don't address an issue until we're diagnosed with something, right? So a lot of my clients will say, I'm eating healthy with my kids. Oh my gosh, all they eat is pasta, mac and cheese, cereal, bagels, but they're fine. And I'm like, however, things are happening below the surface. Mm-hmm. They might be fine today, but their DNA is being disrupted by all that processed food. So what I would say is you don't have to eliminate it all. Just be particular. If you want cereal, go with like an oat-based or rice-based cereal, or switch it up to like eggs or fruit, you know?
So I have about 3 questions to cover that I think will be interesting for everyone listening. And so in no particular order, I just want to touch on what a pro-inflammatory diet is versus anti-inflammatory diet. And I know we already touched on that, but also too, if you're making a lot of smoothies like me, I think smoothies are an important part of a diet because it's easy. Like like in my breakfast smoothie, I have an apple, a banana, blueberries, almonds, cashews, walnuts, Brazil nuts. I'm never going to sit down and eat blueberries and that stuff on its own. Blended together, tastes amazing with pomegranate juice and ice. But I use vanilla vegan protein powder. There's a lot of different protein powders on the market. We talked about it before. I used to buy whey when I was younger, and then I started getting agita. And then once I switched to vegan, the agita went away. I know there's like egg protein. There's like hemp protein, which I guess is plant-based, vegan. Mm-hmm. So
pea protein,
do you have a recommendation?
soy protein.
Yeah, the vegans are usually pea. Do you have a recommendation on just generally what the best is?
I do. I'm going to get crucified for saying this, but that's okay. That's the risk you take when you're on a podcast. But I will say this. I think as the general population, if you're not vegetarian or vegan, we're eating a lot of animal protein. I do think we need to up the amount of plant-based foods in our diet. The more plant-based foods you have, the reduction of inflammation in the body, the more nutrients, vitamins, phytochem, all that good stuff. So we need more plants in our body. Yeah. We just do. I know it. So that being said, when you're going to go out for dinner, you're not likely to order tofu or a vegetarian dinner. You're going to order a steak or fish or chicken. When you're at home, you're going to make a turkey sandwich or make eggs. So I always say for these easy meals, like a smoothie, when you are getting so much nutrition, make that your vegetarian meal. Right. So yes, I always opt for a plant-based.
I agree.
Right. Good. So I always make that your plant-based.
And I buy Arbonne. I've been buying Arbonne for years. I don't know if you have, is there certain brands you like?
I do have certain brands I like. I have 2 that I constantly go back to. I do believe very strongly in the Juice Plus line of products. I use my husband he's better than I am in this case. He makes a smoothie every single morning without fail. And he has for 10 years. And he throws in a scoop of plant-based protein powder. They have a chocolate and a vanilla, and they're delicious. I'm always assessing protein powders by number 1, the taste, number 2, the type of protein, and number 3, the added benefits that go into it, and number 4, the cost. Right? It meets all those requirements. Like it's not only got the pea, the rice, the edamame, and the chickpea protein. So 4 different plant proteins, but it also has all this other stuff. It's got mushroom, spirulina, yucca, pomegranate, sweet potato.
What brand is that?
Juice Plus. So it's called Juice Plus Complete because I will throw a scoop with oat milk and whisk it and give it to my kids as pudding, and they dunk strawberries and bananas and graham crackers in it. They're getting a complete meal because it's got fruits, veggies, plant proteins, beans. It just doesn't have fat. So anyway, I use that brand, but I'm also a big believer in making sure our gut health is in check. So I always add a little bit of Ancient Nutrition. I'm not, I have no connection to them other than I buy them on Amazon all the time.
Nutrition.
Ancient Nutrition. It's a collagen bone broth. And I love adding collagen into my diet because I think it's really good for my skin and good for my gut.
We all want more collagen.
You want more collagen. So I add some of that in. Yeah.
You just gave me a good idea. I think next time I make Kennedy mac and cheese, I'm gonna
Don't fold in collagen.
No. I was gonna sprinkle in maybe some ground flax and see if they notice.
She will not eat that. No, dude.
You think they'll know? What can I throw in
Yes.
there? Some turmeric curcumin, maybe?
Yeah, she'll love that. I always say,
sprinkle?
look, no, just switch to a better brand of mac and cheese. Start small. Go to Annie's, from Kraft to Annie's. Start with that, okay? And then I'm like, if she loves her mac and cheese, don't change that. Make sure she's eating fruits and vegetables with it. But we could try.
Apples and grapes.
Yeah, totally. But she needs veg.
Yeah.
She needs veg.
Broccoli.
Yes, steamed broccoli. She can eat that every day until she's sick of it.
Funny story. So I was in Whole Foods a couple weeks ago, and I was looking for organic grapes to buy for the kids, and they had these great. It didn't even say grapes. It said like grape candy. There was cotton candy.
Oh, cotton candy grapes?
Yeah, but I bought a different one. So I bought them, and I'm like showing her the label. It actually didn't say grapes. I'm like, this is candy, and she liked them. I mean, that was her fruit. But I guess it seems like they soak them in sugar or something like that.
Oh my God. It's so funny. I don't know what they do. Half the time I'm like, wow, guys, look, the size of these apples. They're like melons.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, they're genetically modified.
Yeah.
Awesome. But yeah, then you could do anything with fruit these days.
Yeah. Nice.
Nice. Anti-inflammatory? What? Do you want to go back to that? No.
Well, before we do that, here's a good one. So we all like to go out and have some spirits or libations, whatever you call it.
Spirits, I love that. It does lift my spirit to have some wine.
What do you recommend as organic, like a good drink to have? Organic wine, or I drink a Michelob Ultra.
Wow, that's tasty.
They actually have organic Michelob Ultra, believe it or not.
That is so funny. So it's tasteless, calorieless, and organic. I'm just kidding. I think it's a good drink.
What, the Michelob Ultra?
Yeah. I used to have them after my long runs.
But they say calorie-wise, the best drink, I think, very popular for the females is...
for the female gender.
Tito's and Club with a lime.
Yeah, or tequila.
Yeah.
Listen, this is what I say.
There's no calories, right?
There's calories. Does my hair look okay? This thing.
You're good.
Okay. Most importantly, my hair. I love Prosecco. Bubbly is very low calorie. It's like 60 calories a glass. So I do love that. So I do have some of that. And then, yes, the next best would be to go to your clear liquors like your Tito's and your tequila with some seltzer and fresh lime. I do think beer is very bloating.
Yeah.
I think it's high in calories. I think wine is great. If you're using it to wind down, to have a glass, it can be anti-inflammatory. I always say there's not a problem with the glass of wine at the end of the day. The problem becomes when your glass turns into 2 to 3 to 4 every night. That's like 150 calories per glass times 4. What is that? 700? I don't know what that is. But not only that, it's not the calories. Your sleep is severely interrupted when you're drinking alcohol. You go to sleep quicker.
Yeah.
You don't have a deep sleep. And so because of that, you wake up groggy, you miss your morning workout, you feel crummy. And when you're not sleeping well, then your hormones are thrown off that dictate your hunger and your satiety. So you tend to eat more and want more sugar. So it's just like, it's a really long snowball effect by drinking over drinking or drinking too much.
Yeah. Here's another good question.
Okay.
We discussed this before briefly, because a lot of people that come into my office with injuries and stuff like that, most people still think that, say in their 40s, late 30s, 50s, that they need to like run on the treadmill and take a CrossFit class and be dripping sweating, and that's how they're going to lose weight. But I try to explain to them, not really. I think you said 80-20. It's the scale is the diet is what's going to move the scale up or down. You know, the weight, a good functional training workout for middle-aged adults and older is going to rebuild your posture, maintain muscle mass. You could grow some muscle, but I mean, I think we're fully grown adults. I don't think we're not like, building a ton of muscle like we did when we were 18, 19, 20. But I think it's good to let people know that the diet is really the key on how the scale is going to move. And that's what makes you feel better. What's your thoughts on that? I know we touched on it before.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. I think it's the reality. The reality is that changing up the diet has a bigger impact on weight maybe than exercise.
Yeah.
Everybody is individual. If their diet is perfectly clean, and there's no movement going on, then you need to add that in. But generally speaking, the diet is very important. Why do people focus so much on exercise? Quite frankly, I think it's more enjoyable and a little bit easier. You go work out for your hour, you're done. Food, all day long.
Yeah.
It's a bigger investment to have to change your food. But for me, I notice my weight changes as it relates to my sleep. If I'm going to bed consistently later, well, what happens? I'm working late or I'm up late. I tend to snack more late at night. So it's really a function of my sleep patterns. When I'm going to bed early, I get great sleep. I have great energy. I don't need food to carry me through the day. I've got natural energy, right? So for me, it's sleep. So that's why as a holistic nutrition coach, I'm looking at people's patterns. If you're exercising and you think you're eating well, but you are stressed to the max and you're emotionally eating, doesn't matter how much you exercise. Let's get to the bottom of why you're emotionally eating and what's going on there. Go ahead.
Well, no, that's a good point, because the longer you sleep, so if you're sleeping for 8 hours a day, then that only leaves 16 hours left that you're awake. If I did the math right, hopefully. And and the other thing is that I explain to people, so my workouts are really long now. I 75 to 90 minute workouts about 4 days a week. It's
Holy
a lot of stretch
cow.
work. I'm not dripping sweating, but it's a lot of stretch work, core work, muscle strengthening. And what I explain to people is if you're getting 4 workouts a week in, that's less time of those 16 hours that you're going to be wanting to eat, because you're not going to want to eat a big meal before you start a workout. And then as soon as you're done, I mean, you may drink a little, but then you're going to have your meal.
Yeah.
And then your body, you broke your muscles down, so your body needs that nutrient. So, that's where it goes hand in hand. And then the other thing I tell people is when you're working out consistently, and this has always been the story with me, it's almost like you're putting the time in to work out. Now you want to drive, you want to put good fuel in your body. Like if you own a Mercedes, you're going to put premium fuel in. So you tend to eat better. I always tend to eat better if I worked out.
Of course.
Like
you're feeling good about yourself. It motivates you. When you're already feeling down and you lack energy and you lack confidence, you're like, what the heck? It's like throwing the towel in. There's a lot of like psychology behind all that, but there's also science behind it. I mean, when you are exercising, you're boosting your metabolism. When you're exercising, you tend to make better food choices. When you're exercising, your body actually craves healthy food. So there's so many. When you're exercising, your immunity improves because your lymphatic system actually needs the movement and the exercise. So there's so much benefit. And unlike you, like today, my exercise, I think it's very, very important for me mentally and physically to exercise 13 minutes on the treadmill to Irina Carr. She's an 80s maniac. And she does like, what is the song?
Oh, music?
Yeah, like 80s music, whatever. Music is therapeutic for me.
Yeah.
The movement, the fast, hard run, it was only 12 to 13 minutes. I broke a sweat. I got my blood flow, my moving. I felt really good. I didn't have an hour today. So I always tell people, look, you are better off to not, if you're not somebody who exercises and want to incorporate it into your day, if you go into it with this idea that you're going to exercise 1 hour every day, well, a lot of people just say, forget about it if they can't find the time for an hour. I am more of the thought that if all you could give is 25 minutes a day, do it. Small changes over the course of time lead to sustainable change, right? So do a little bit every day versus on Saturday, I exercise for 2 hours. I equate it to like learning a foreign language. Do you think you'd be better off studying Italian 20 minutes a day every day or taking one class every year for the full weekend? When would you learn? How would you learn better? Same thing. Do what works for you. Don't feel like it's only beneficial if it's an hour and a half or 2 hours. It's got to be something though. Yeah.
And the other thing with that is I lost my train of thought with that, where I was going with that, but that's fine. We could.
That's fine.
We'll circle back, but we could. So pro-inflammatory diet versus anti-inflammatory diet. So basically pro-inflammatory diet would just be the standard American diet is pro-inflammation. Yeah, it's just processed sugars, carbs, food, processed starches. Yeah, and believe it or not, junk food. It's also things we enjoy, like drinking. I like it. Not going to give it up, but I'm not going to do it all day during the week. Okay. All right. Yesterday I may have had some Prosecco with a friend. That's a little rare. I usually reserve it for like weekends and during the week. So it's got to be a balance. Yeah. Alcohol is inflammatory. Cigarettes are inflammatory. Stress is inflammatory. Anger is inflammatory.
So it's not just the food we're eating, it's the chemicals that are released in our body. If you're constantly stressed, you know this, it's the feeling of your stomach clenching all day long because of nervousness or fear or anxiety. You have more nerve endings in your gut, which is your intestinal lining, your esophagus, your stomach, your small intestine, your large intestine. That's all part of your gut. There's so many nerve endings there that get fired up. When you're chronically stressed or anxious, it affects your digestive system and it could lead to inflammation on that whole system. So yeah, it's crazy. Adrenaline is an inflammatory hormone. So are some of the toxins in the environment. So I always say, look, I can't always control my stress level. I can't always control the environmental toxins. I can't control what I'm predisposed to, but I can control what I put in my mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I try to eat clean, which is a diet full of fruits and vegetables and whole grains. We said like lower carb, but I do like quinoa. It's a complete amino acid. I like pasta. I like brown rice here and there, but it's the portions that's important. And I do eat a lot of nuts. Never as a kid because I was afraid of fat in high school. But no, I snack on walnuts. I snack on hummus. I snack on almonds, almond butter, all that good stuff. So inflammatory diet is one that's processed.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned, so two things. You mentioned gut. So I want to get into leaky gut syndrome because I don't think a lot of people know what that means.
No, why would they?
But before that, environmental toxins you mentioned. When it comes to dementia is near and dear to my heart because I have an aunt who has dementia. This is my father's sister. My grandmother had it. I think my paternal grandfather as well.
Oh,
so
sorry.
that's scary. But I actually think that, and I don't know what the research is. I think that, well, what I start hearing from like Dr. Mark Hyman, I think has talked about this, that the new research, the old research was nothing could really be done because nothing passes the blood-brain barrier really. But I think the newer research now is that yes, like when you're eating really clean, you're going to less likely have dementia symptoms and Alzheimer's.
Yeah. A lot of antioxidants are really good for the brain as well as omega-3s, anti-inflammatory foods, and just knowing that there are foods that it's debatable. It's a little bit of a controversial topic between Western and Eastern medicine, but I strongly believe, it's my opinion based on what I've read and seen, that if you're eating foods that cause inflammation in the body systemically, we know for a fact gluten-based products do. White sugar does. Dairy does. That dementia, Alzheimer's are inflammation in the brain.
Yeah.
So why would you eat inflammatory food? So yes, the hope is that, and obesity is one of them as well. It's at the cellular level, there's inflammation. So we're trying to eat foods that are anti-inflammatory, which are a lot of foods with antioxidants, fruits and vegetables, nuts that are anti-inflammatory, fish that's anti-inflammatory. So really I say to people, look, you don't have to cut out all the good stuff because quite frankly, if you're talking about the population, 60, 70, 80-year-olds or 50s through 80s, really hard for them to change their habit. They grew up eating these foods and they're like, it's what I ate. Yeah, but the food source was very different back then. Everything was organic when you were younger. There was no genetic modification of foods. There was no inflammation. The gluten was very natural. It's a different world we live in today. So, my parents, I'm always, they've taken some of what I said and made some changes. And then other things are really hard for them. That's just natural. You can't force people to make change, but you could suggest it. And so my suggestion is take one of your meals a day and try to swap it. Like swap it with something anti-inflammatory.
Yeah. So maybe, I lost my train of thought again, so I'll give you an example. And this is anecdotal. 2 siblings, older in their late 70s, early 80s. One was always obese, never exercised. The other one and that's the one that has bad dementia for the last 10 years. And the other one always exercised and isn't obese and the brain is fine. I mean, that's anecdotal, but that's just another example of why I believe that diet has a big diet and exercise has a big part on it.
I will go as far to say, my belief is that like 75%, because the research changes, but about 75% of diseases could be preventable with diet and exercise. But listen, there are some cases, if it's not obesity, it's heart disease, that no matter what you do, heck, it's God's plan for you to just have a shorter life than you'd like, right? Like, how about all those people that are like marathoners and they eat great and they exercise great and they get cancer or they have a heart attack. So I always say, look, our job is not to fight nature. None of us is immortal. But my goal as a mom and as a human being is to honor the body I've been given.
Yeah.
It's a gift. This is a gift that's been given to me to use to glorify God and to have a good life. That's my mission, right? And so how do I do that? By nourishing it and giving myself the opportunity every single day to feel good, to be confident, to be healthy. That's all you could do. You do what's in your control, trusting that there are things that are outside of your control.
Yeah.
That's it. And we can't prevent everything. We're predisposed to some things, but you could sure as heck do your best to be accountable, for what we're doing and to feel empowered by first being educated. Thank you, Steve, for offering this podcast because you're educating people. And then the hope is that they feel inspired to then do something with that knowledge, turn it into application.
Yeah.
And then that's where the wisdom comes in. Application.
Yeah, I mean, we could touch on exercise, the fact that I feel like, I don't know, probably 40%, maybe 60% of middle-aged adults and older don't exercise enough.
Probably. And look, I feel bad. We live in a really broken world where the expectations put upon us are so great that it falls to the wayside.
Yeah.
We're expected to work our butts off. What are we told? In this world, you will be happy if you have more money, if you have bigger houses, if you have more cars, if you have all these opportunities, if your kids get into the best colleges. And it's so stressful. What do? We work ourselves to death and we take on more and we're volunteering more. And then there's so little time for ourselves, for self-care.
Not enough time for self-care.
No, and it's very, there's nothing selfish about taking care of ourselves.
Yeah.
For me, it doesn't necessarily always mean getting a new haircut or getting my nails and toes done. It means self-care means taking time to say no to things. Yeah. I have to get better at that. I'm getting a little bit better, but I still do.
Yeah.
Taking the time to I don't care what I miss. I don't have FOMO. I'm not looking at social media right now.
Yeah.
I'm sitting in my bed and I'm reading a book because I go to sleep a lot faster if I do that.
Yeah.
Taking time to be with my family. So I think self-care is really important. And for many people, if what they know they're missing is taking care of their bodies by exercising, we only have so much time in a day. It's making the choice to say no to something else and clearing your calendar for this. And the other thing I say to people too is if we want it to happen, it's got to go on your calendar. I put everything from a phone call to a pickup on my calendar. Yeah. If I don't put the exercise in there, it won't happen. I actually have to put it in. Yeah. So put it in. If meal prepping is one of the things you want to work on this year, I always say I put Friday mornings at 6 is when I plan my meals for the next week. It only takes 7 minutes. And then from there I can Instacart or I can go to the store. But on Sundays is when I block time to meal prep. If it's not there, I'm not meal prepping.
Here's a good question.
Sure.
So if you make your own chicken cutlets at home, I used to fry them. Or even if I make fried eggs, you know what I use now instead of Pam, the cooking spray, because I feel like it's processed. I do olive oil.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of butter. I like butter. Yeah. I do. And I buy at Costco, they have this sort of larger one of a grass-fed butter. It's delicious.
Salted or unsalted?
Oh, geez. You know what? I don't know what that one is. Yeah. If it's unsalted, I tend to add sea salt to my food. Nothing wrong with that. There's lots of minerals in sea salt.
Yeah.
The salt, the problem people have a problem with is the processed food, the frozen food, going out for dinner all the time. It's not the salt you add to your food. But anyway, I like butter. Or you could use spray avocado or spray olive oil. It's the Pam and the canola oil that tends to have soy isolates and some other stuff in there. It's not so great for you.
What about, we didn't touch on supplements. I mean, so I'll just tell you what I take and then you give me your thought on, so I buy from Zymogen, my multivitamin, and then it's called BioC, my C. And then I have a zinc and a D. That I just buy from ShopRite. Yeah. So that's pretty much all I take as far as vitamins. And well, then in supplements would be the vegan protein powder, the turmeric curcumin. I have super greens. So I put a teaspoon of that in each smoothie because I don't have as much salads and stuff in my diet. And the flax and the chia. So those, I guess you'd classify as supplements.
Your body it's a wonderland.
Well, I mean, I'm doing pull-ups and push-ups again, and I'm about to play basketball.
Oh, 190 minutes of exercise a day. Every superfood you can imagine. I would say 90.
90. 5 days a week, 4 or 5 days a week. Jeez. I get interrupted a lot with text messages though. Oh. So
do not disturb.
Well, no, I have to book massages.
Okay.
The phone rings off the hook, but that's a good thing.
Fine. Okay. That is a good thing. It's a good problem to have. I don't know. Okay. This is I'm going to try to keep this short. The idea of vitamins and supplements is a good one because as Americans, we're missing the mark on what our body needs in terms of vitamins and minerals, fats. We're missing it because we're not getting it from our diet. So the idea is, well, let's fill that gap by taking medicine, vitamins, supplements. The problem with that is they're not all high quality and the body doesn't absorb man-made vitamins and minerals the same way it does real food. So while the idea of taking a lot of vitamins and minerals is a good one, it doesn't always pan out. There are so many vitamins and supplements out on the market that have zero research behind them showing that they're actually absorbing into our bloodstream, that they have a positive influence or a positive effect on your markers for inflammation, your cardiovascular markers, that it's actually seeping into your bloodstream. So I'm like, great idea, but the majority of people are taking them and they're taking ones that are just crappy.
And they're eating crap food.
Yeah. So I'm like, look, so why don't you just throw out those, I'm not going to say brands because I don't want to insult anybody, but throw them out and do one smoothie a day. Yeah. Way better off, right? I take Juice Plus because I believe in it and it's been so researched for over 30 years. And it's made a huge improvement anecdotally in me, my husband, and my kids. So that speaks volumes to me. And I do eat a ton of fruits and vegetables, but it fills the gap of all the fruits and vegetables that I might not be getting and a variety in which I'm not getting. So that's where I get a lot of my vitamin C's and vitamin phytochemicals, phytonutrients. But I do know that I'm not a big protein eater. I eat chicken, I eat turkey, but I eat probably smaller portions.
Yeah.
So I do take a B complex every day. All right. So I do that. I do take vitamin D because we don't get it living up here in New Jersey. If it's sunny out, we throw sunscreen on and we just don't get sun and we need it for osteoporosis, cancer prevention, mood. So I take a vitamin D. So I think about what am I not getting? What can I not get in my food? I can't get the vitamin D. I'm not getting enough B12. I do take an omega blend because I think it's really important to reduce inflammation that naturally happens in our body. And I do take a probiotic.
Well, here's a good question on the omega because Michael Greger, How Not to Die, his book, MD, that he was really big on like the whole food plant-based diet where he just says vitamins are our body. A lot of them, there's a lot of nonsense with certain vitamins compared to similar to a lot of drugs that Big Pharma put out there. He got into how, I think he specifically spoke about fish oil, how our body's really not designed to absorb some of this stuff by itself, like a vitamin E, where it should be coming from whole foods. So I don't take fish oil, but because I'm doing the flax, the chia, and all the mixed unsalted nuts, I don't really need to take fish oil because I'm getting enough.
I think based on your diet, you're taking it every day. I don't do smoothies every day. Right now, I'm freezing in the studio. I'm freezing. Yeah. I don't think I have like low thyroid functioning. I think I literally am just cold. So, that's right. But I don't like smoothies in the winter. Yeah. I drink them every day in the summer. I love them. But in the winter, I don't. So I'm not getting my flax and my chia, and I'm not making salmon every day. So I know that I'm consistently not getting omega, so I do take it. You're probably getting plenty.
I'm a self-proclaimed smoothie aficionado, so I'm gonna bring over a sample for you and Craig to try. It's amazing. Next time I pick up Kennedy on a play date.
Yes.
The daytime one and the nighttime one.
That's awesome.
It's very good. I've been tweaking the recipe over the years.
That's good.
It's good.
Well, that's a good exchange because I brought you lunch today.
Yes, thank you.
I know you're not even eating it, but it's lunchtime hour. You know what? You want to know what I made him? Seeing how we're talking about nutrition, I did a balance. I did tuna fish. And I add diced pickles to it. That just gives a delicious flavor. And then I did it over leafy greens, some grape tomatoes and cukes. And then I did a big scoop of spicy sauerkraut for your gut.
What's a cuke?
Cucumber.
Okay, I thought so.
Baby cuke. Oh, and the best cucumbers are the English or the babies because they're not like wet and seedy. I did a big scoop of sauerkraut because I knew you'd be asking me about gut and it's fermented, really good for your gut. Yeah. I did a little bit of hummus for plant protein. And then I made you a muffin for dessert with oats, bananas, shaved carrots, and apples. and
Nice.
maple syrup for sweetener.
Well, I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
That'll be eaten later.
Yes.
I think I got one more thing, and then maybe we've been talking for about an hour and 8 minutes. I
Oh my
think.
gosh, people are getting bored. We got to wrap this up.
One more thing. So, and I learned this they always say drink water all day, right? So I learned this from Michael Greger about the antioxidants from green tea, hibiscus tea, all that. So I try to have 1 or 2 cups of tea a day in place of water. Cause when my new thing is like, I'm all about anti-aging. So antioxidants essentially is anti-aging. So,
That's right.
I mean, I don't think a lot of people drink as much tea. Not in America. I know like other countries,
Yeah,
it's
totally.
popular in the Middle East, right? Tea and all that. So,
Yes. I do love tea. I think green tea is really high in it. Like black tea is like caffeinated tea, not necessarily the same benefits as like a green tea.
Mm-hmm.
So go for like your green tea, and you could do green tea with peach, green tea with raspberry. You could do flavored green tea, but it's great for you because you could drink it long into the day. It's not going to hype you up. It's not caffeine. It's very little caffeine in green tea.
yes.
That's a good one. But yeah, if your question is tea good for you? Absolutely. It's one of the many antioxidants, but fruits and vegetables are antioxidants, which is anti-aging.
Yeah.
The term antioxidants, it's just reversing oxidation, which occurs in the body naturally. Some oxidation is good, but when you're under oxidative stress is when your free radicals are outweighing your antioxidants. And that's when you begin to age. Maybe another conversation for another day.
Yeah. Well, what tipped me off, I guess the correlation he used or the example is that he said, when you open a banana and if you keep it out on the calendar or on the counter, or an avocado overnight, it turns black, it oxidizes. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, that's what happens in my body. So I start drinking the tea.
Yes. That's so funny. And this is how you can envision it. Take an apple, you cut it in half. If it's not genetically modified, it will brown. Free radicals are it's emitting, right? So there's air is hitting it and it's aging. So it turns brown. What do? We squeeze lemon on it. It's a huge antioxidant and it doesn't turn brown. So that's why you've never put like apples or even when I cut avocado, I squeeze lime.
It's a good science project for the kids to do.
Totally. When you make avocado, you add lime to it and it prevents, yummy, it gives a yummy flavor, but it also prevents it from turning brown so quickly because lemons and limes are antioxidants. So that's what we're doing in the body. We're flooding our body with lemons and limes and oranges and grapefruits and fruits. We're reversing the aging process.
All right. Should we get out of here?
I do want to do a little karaoke. I've never had a microphone so crisp and clear in front of my mouth.
You're going to sing
This is for
us?
Anthony Floria. Lose yourself. I had to do it.
Nice.
That's it.
Very good. Applause for that.
I love karaoke.
Listen, thanks so much for doing this. Really appreciate it. It's going to be great
welcome.
for everyone to listen to, and hopefully we'll do it again sometime.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
It was so much fun.
Thank you.
Adios.